So hello again YouTube, my name is Hans and welcome to my channel and to this episode of Darktable Insights. If you're new to this channel, it's meant to be an easy to understand guide to Darktable on a beginners to intermediate level. Today I'll continue the tour of the preferences. Last time I went through the GUI options tab. Today I'm gonna try to cover the rest. So let's go! So the first of the tabs we'll be looking at today is the Core Options tab. These options control how Darktable works internally to give you the best possible experience. First entry is memory in megabytes to use for thumbnail cache. When Darktable generates thumbnails in light table view, these are stored in a cache file which is loaded into memory. The cache file should be large enough to hold a decent number of thumbnails, so Darktable doesn't have to regenerate them all the time while you are working on a collection. This setting controls the size of this cache file in megabytes. The default value is 256. Enable disk backend for thumbnail cache. If this option is checked, all generated thumbnails will be kept in a secondary cache file on disk. When a thumbnail has been dropped from the primary cache and is needed again, it will be read from this file instead of being regenerated. This is a lot faster, but if you have a large library of images, it may take quite a lot of disk space. The default is to have it on. Color manage cached thumbnails. If this is checked, cached thumbnails will be color managed so that light table and the film streak will show correct colors. Otherwise, the results may look wrong once you change your display profile. Number of background threads. This is how many processor threads to use in the background for generating thumbnails on import. Host memory limit in megabytes for tiling. If a module needs more than this amount of memory in megabytes, when processing an image, it will split the image into smaller pieces called tiles and process one tile at a time. Setting this to 0 means no limit, and any other value below 500 will be treated as 500. On a 32-bit system, you should set this to 500. The default is 1500, and if you change it, Darktable needs a restart for it to take effect. Minimum amount of memory in megabytes for a single buffer in tiling. This is the minimum amount of memory in megabytes that Darktable should take for a single tile. On a 32-bit system, you should set this to 8. 64-bit systems can use higher values, and the default is 16. This also needs a restart if you change it. Write sidecar file for each image. When you import images into Darktable, a database entry is made for each image. All the information about the image is stored there, including the metadata you enter, such as title, description and keywords. And also information about all the edits you make. That's the history stack. Whenever you bring an image into Darkroom, this information is read and applied to the raw file, which itself is always completely unchanged. If this option is checked, Darktable will also write a text file that contains these data and store it next to the raw file. These sidecar files, as they are called, get the same file name as the raw file they belong to, with an .xmp extension. They are also saved on the fly as you work, and you don't ever have to think about saving your work. Darktable doesn't even have a save button. If you have made duplicates of an image, there is a new sidecar file made for each duplicate. These files get a sequential number added to the base of the file name to identify them as duplicates. So I'll show you here. In my file manager, here's a raw file, CR2 from Canon, and to the left here is the first XMP file. You see it's got the same file name and CR2 and also XMP at the end. And to the right is the XMP file for a duplicate. with the same file name, and 02 because I've had another duplicate which I have deleted, and this is the second duplicate. So if we open this one, I'll just show you how a XMP file looks like inside. So this is what it looks like, a whole bunch of text. Here you can see the text for the base curve module, operation base curve, and it's enabled and different stuff. The params, I guess this is some internal code for the shape of the curve. So we'll go back to Darktable. Sidecar files are useful for two purposes. First of all, they serve as a backup of the database. So if you lose the database for some reason, or if you move your images to another computer without the database, then you keep all your edits when you import the image again. Secondly, they allow you to share raw files and edits with others. Very useful to show how you have done something, whether it's to help others or to ask for help yourself. Just share the raw file and the sidecar. The default for this option is to have it on. Store XMP tags in compressed format. When you export images as JPEGs, all the information from the XMP files are also embedded in the JPEGs. To make sure all the history stack information is preserved, some of the other information may be stored in a compressed format to save space. You have three choices: never, always, and only large entries. The default is only large entries. Omit hierarchy in simple tag lists. Darktable supports hierarchical tags, like for example the automatically added tag for file format. Let's close this for a moment. And you can see here, Darktable format CR2 and Darktable changed. These are hierarchical tags, where the tags are separated by this pipe symbol. So when exporting images, the hierarchical tags are also added as a simple list of non-hierarchical ones, to make them visible to some other programs. When this option is checked, Darktable will only include their last part and ignore the rest. So for this Darktable format CR2, only the last part CR2 will be added to this list. Then we go on with activate OpenCL support. That's not available on my system, but if your graphics card supports OpenCL and it's powerful enough, you can use this to speed up processing. The default is to have it on if supported, but can be turned off at any time and does not require a restart. OpenCL scheduling profile defines how preview and full pixel pipe tasks are scheduled on OpenCL enabled systems. This too is not available on my system because my GPU is not so powerful that I gain anything by using it, so I just don't. OpenCL scheduling profile has three options if you have it available, and those are default, multiple GPUs, or very fast GPUs. If you set it to default, the GPU processes the center view pixel pipe and the CPU processes the preview pipe. So the center view pixel pipe, which is the main image window, will be processed by the graphics processor, and the preview pixel pipe, which is processing of this little preview image in the corner, will be handled by your CPU or your normal processor. If you set it to multiple GPUs, then both those pixel pipes are processed in parallel on two different GPUs. If you set it to very fast GPU, then both pixel pipes are processed sequentially, one after another. And for those who don't know, GPU means graphics card. Always use little CMS2 to apply output color profile. If this option is activated, Darktable will use the system library little CMS2 instead of its own routines. This is significantly slower than the default, but might give more accurate results in some cases. The default is off. Note that if the given ICC or color profile is LUT based or contains both a LUT and a matrix, then Darktable will use little CMS2 to render the colors regardless of this configuration parameter's value. Do high quality resampling during export. When checked, the image will always be processed in full resolution, and then if required, it will be downscaled to the output resolution you have set. If not checked, the image will be downscaled first and then processed. You may get a bit higher quality by doing this, but it will always be slower. So the default is off, which is normally the sensible thing to do. Demosaicing for zoomed out darkroom mode. This decides how demosaicing is done when you view an image in darkroom view at lower zoom values than 100% or 1:1. The idea is that the demosaicing doesn't have to be as accurate in these cases in order to speed up processing. So we have these three options, and always bilinear is the fastest, but that's not as sharp. At most PPG, reasonable, is using PPG plus interpolation modes specified below. And full, possibly slow, will use exactly the settings for full-size export. The default is at most PPG, reasonable. Pixel interpolator. This is how pixel interpolation is done in rotation, lens correction, zooming and up and down scaling. Options are bilinear, which is the fastest and least accurate, bicubic, Lanczos 2 and Lanczos 3, which is the highest quality and also the default setting. Password storage backend to use. In the Export Selected module, you have the option not only to export files to your hard drive, you can also export directly to a selection of websites like Facebook or Flickr. With this option, you can let Darktable store your password for easier login. The options are Auto, None, LibSecret and KWallet. And Auto is the default. So here in the Export Selected module, under Target Storage, if you click on File on Disk, you have different alternatives here. So we can export to Facebook or Flickr, Google Photos or different other options. So the next one is look for updated XMP files on startup. Check file modification times of all XMP files on startup to find out if any got updated since the last time by some other software. If updated XMP files are found, a menu opens for the user to decide which of the XMP files to be reloaded, replacing Darktable's database entries by the XMP file contents, and which of the XMP files to be overwritten by Darktable's database. Activating this option also causes Darktable to check for text sidecar files that have been added after import time, as I discussed in my previous video. Executable for playing audio files. Some cameras can record audio files to keep notes for images. These files can be played in light table view, and this option decides which program is being used to play these files. The default is aplay, but you can change that by typing in the name of another program. And then the last one, auto apply per camera base curve presets. Darktable comes with a set of base curves for different camera brands. In addition, you can make a custom base curve for your specific camera and use that instead if you check this option. To make such a base curve is too complicated to show here, but I'll put a link in the description to the page on the Darktable website describing it. Then we're off to session options. This is a small one. These options control how Darktable sets up the folder structure and renames files when you import images from a camera or taking photos via tethering. If you set up a good system here, you don't have to worry about where to place your images, it's all taken care of for you. You can use a series of predefined variables or your own names, or a combination of those. So, base directory naming pattern. This tells Darktable where to go to make its own folders. The default is pictures folder /Darktable, which will be a folder called Darktable within your standard pictures folder. Subdirectory naming pattern. This is the naming of folders for each import of job code, as it is called in the import dialog. The default is year, month, day _ job code. File naming pattern. This is the pattern for the actual file names. The default is year, month, day _sequence .file extension. The year, month, day part refers to the day you do your import, not the day you took the images. This would have exif _ before year, month and day. Sequence is a sequential number starting with 0001 for the first imported image, and file extension is the file type, such as CR2 for Canon or NEF for Nikon. I'll put a link to the complete list of variables from the manual in the description below, and the way you change these is just to type in whatever you want. So if you want to change the date from the date of import to the date that the images were taken, you can type in exif _ in front of each here. So, you can also add other folders by typing a slash and then calling it something else. So now we'll import them into folders called the date of the day you took your images and the job code, and a subfolder under that called example. Next tab is shortcuts. Here you will find all the keyboard shortcuts Darktable uses. You can click the little triangles to expand each category, and if you want to change a shortcut or create a new one, just double click on the shortcut and you can type in a new shortcut here. So I don't want to do that. At the bottom of the preferences window there are now 3 buttons. With import you can import a complete set of keyboard shortcuts. With export you can export your shortcuts to a file for backup, and with default you can go back to the default set of shortcuts. Now we have presets tab. Just like the shortcuts, here's a collection of all your presets from all your modules. Click the little triangles to expand each category. The presets that have a padlock beside them are the ones that come with Darktable. Those cannot be manipulated in any way. The ones without a padlock are the ones you have made yourself. Double click on one and a new window opens. Here you can change the name, you can save them to a file by clicking the Save button, or you can set them to be applied automatically to matching images or to only be visible for matching images. When you check either of these two options, the window is expanded and you get a number of criteria to filter on, like the camera make and model, lens and various exposure related alternatives. And since it's possible to save presets to a file, it must also be possible to import presets. This is done via the Import button in the bottom left of the Preferences window. That's all for today. I really hope this has shed some light on the mysteries of the Preferences dialog in Darktable. If you like this channel, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an episode. I'd also be very happy if you check out my other outlets online. All links are in the description. And if there's something special you want me to talk about, then let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. So until next time, bye!